Appreciate that. Good to see you guys coming on. Thank you so much for joining. I am really excited about tonight. I'm going to release some clues. I'm going to release something to you that you can use in this season and in this hour to advance your life. I'm going to give you some strategy on what you should be doing and how you can do it. I'm going to give you some power. I'm going to give you some power that will, if you use it, it'll advance your life. And I'm going to give you some proof. I'm going to use my own life as proof of what I'm saying to you tonight. Because I want you to understand that I'm not just coming on as someone who just has something to say. I'm not just coming on here because, trust me, I wouldn't even, if it was just me wanting to say something or wanting to be heard, I wouldn't get on here. I wouldn't do it. But there's a word from the Lord that he has charged me with. And so there are those, I used to say this all the time, I'm looking for those who are looking for me. And so there are some who are looking for me. And they're not looking for me, but they're looking for what I'm carrying. They're looking for and they're listening for the words that I'm carrying. Just like I was looking for someone one day. They were carrying my words. They were carrying my message. They were carrying my understanding. And when I found them, I knew that I had found them because they were answering questions that I had on the inside of me. They were giving language to things that I had wondered about and things that were going on the inside of me that I couldn't explain. And they came and helped me by giving me the language to begin to articulate what was happening on the inside of me. And so I know that there are those who are looking for what's on what I'm carrying. And what I'm carrying, I've been carrying it for a while. I didn't just start carrying it. It's proven. It's tried, it's tested, and it's proven. Okay, and my life is an example and a demonstration of what I'm going to be sharing with you here tonight. So thank you again for joining, and congratulate yourself for joining, because you're here to hear what's going to be said here tonight. So let me grab a couple of things here and pull them up, and we're going to get started here in just a second. I never plan to come and be on here long, 40 to 45 minutes. I think that's enough time. I can give you more than you can handle in 45 minutes. I can give you more than you can handle in 15 minutes. I can give you more than you can handle in 5 minutes. So it's not about the quantity. It's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of what I'm going to share with you. And you'll need to have the opportunity and the time to meditate on it, to take it, to work with it, to war with it. And that's what we should do with all information that comes in, especially that information that comes in as truth. We have to war with it. And what warring with it means, it simply means that we are going to put it in prayer. We're going to meditate on it. We may even run it by someone, some confidence, someone that we trust, someone who's more grounded than us, someone who has more wisdom or more understanding or more knowledge than us. We may even run it by them, submit it to wise counsel. All of that is a part of warring with it, because the end result or the goal of warring with it is to become one with it if it is the truth. And so that's what we're going to be doing here. So again, thank you for those of you who are on. I'm not going to wait any longer. There'll be some other people jumping on, and they'll catch me. They'll catch us as we're moving. So let's jump right into this tonight. We're still talking about the clear picture. And I want you to understand something, that as we are a few days out from an election, and we've been in this election cycle, and so many things just like every election cycle, there's a lot of stuff that happens. There's a lot of things that go on. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of accusations. There's a lot of pointing the fingers. There's a lot of promises made. There's just a lot of stuff, right? Um, and if you're not rooted and grounded in truth, it's easy for you to become caught up in the lies, the accusation, the manipulation, and you become a part of the fodder. You become a part of the crowd who's being used to perpetrate or perpetuate, rather, misinformation or bad information, or you're being used to help facilitate a movement that you may or may not agree with. That's what can happen when you become caught up in what's going on. So you have to have yourself rooted and grounded. You have to be settled in, you know what I'm going to say? In who you are. When you're not settled in who you are, then any wind that blows can blow you. So you have to be settled in who you are. So as we are a few days out from this cycle, we understand that there are some things that are coming our way, regardless of who it is that's sitting in the seat of the president. There are some things that are coming our way that whoever is in there won't be able to stop, because it represents the timing of God and, watch this word, the judgment of God. And we, like everyone else, has to come under the judgment of God. Like it or not, believe it or not, we're still going to come under the judgment of God. Just like when the sun shines, if you are anywhere on the planet where the sun is shining, you are coming under the judgment of that sun, because it has nothing to do with you. It is a natural law that was put in place by a God who is so far beyond man. Yeah. so we are going to come under the judgment of God. And so we have to answer individually for that, as we answer corporately for it. But you must first answer individually. You must first answer the question, the call, the same one that God called out to Adam. Adam, where are you? Okay. It wasn't a logistical question. It was a question of where are you in regards to what I told you to do? Where have you landed, okay, in conjunction with the assignment that you had? Are you on point with the assignment, or have you been disrailed, okay, or derailed? And so he was, where are you, Adam? And so we're in that kind of moment now, of where are you, Adam moment. Where are you in regards to what it is that God has called you to do in the earth? Where are you in conjunction to the assignment that you've been given? Are you on point? Are you living on point? Are you on the right road? Or are you still trying to figure it out? Okay. The other morning I woke up and the Lord had this statement, this phrase in my spirit, in my mind, and I wrote it down. It says, you have and have always had mental and emotional wealth. You have it and you've always had it. He says, you have and you've always had. You need to understand or learn how to discover it or rediscover it. And that's the season, that's the moment that we are in, is in rediscovering what is ours, what belongs to us, what we have, what we've been given as a part of, okay, the authority package, if I can say it that way. We were not just released into the earth, but we were released into the earth with assignments. And that assignment, there are some things that come along with the assignment. Things like the ability to do it. Okay. Things like space and time. Okay. God has made it such that we are without excuse, regardless of what it is or what has happened in our lives. And sometimes really want to embrace that, or rather we want to embrace it in some cases, and in other cases we just say, oh well, that person's life is too hard, or my life is, you don't know what I've been through, man, my life is too hard. It doesn't matter. The book of Romans tells us, thou, old man, are without excuse. We don't have an excuse. Okay. And so I'm going to be talking about how to discover or rediscover your mental and emotional wealth. Okay. So let's talk about mental wealth for just a brief moment before I get into this other part. So, mental wealth, I define mental wealth, okay, based upon what the Lord has been giving to me. I define mental wealth as a state of mind that is populated with and supported by words that elevate and lead to health, wealth. Now, why do I have that definition for it? As I began to look through scripture, if you read Proverbs, study Proverbs, you will find many instances in the Proverbs where it alludes to the power, the healing power of words. Yeah, we talk about this. We know life and death is in the power of the tongue, and it is, right? That's probably one of the most quoted scriptures because it's easy to remember. People say it a lot, right? But do you understand that Proverbs is full of scriptures like that, that talk about the word and the healing power of words? One of my favorites, the right word at the right time is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. That's the King James Version. That's Proverbs 25:12, I believe it is. I loved it so much. I wrote a spoken word drama called Apples of Gold, because I understand how a word can heal or it can maim or wound. Words give life. Words can also take life, right? Words can literally bring healing to our bones, Proverbs says. So I thought it was a fitting definition for wealth. And if you look at it, it's an acronym as well. Words that elevate and lead to health. So it's a scriptural definition that I have for mental wealth. So what about emotional wealth? Well, emotional wealth, you really start dealing with your ability to manage, okay, your thoughts, your feelings, okay, all of the things that the resources that we have mentally, our ability to manage them in a way that causes or produces for us happiness, joy, peace, okay, or turmoil. Because if you can't manage what's going on between your ears, inside of your own, if you can't manage your own thoughts, then that means that someone else is pulling the strings or has the control or the authority over your mind. And no one has been given the authority over your mind. That's your mind, and you have the authority over it. So if you yielded that to someone else by believing what someone else is saying to you or about you, that's on you. Okay? I say this a lot. It's not what other people say to us that we believe, it's what we say to ourselves. So someone can say something mean to you or negative to you or bad to you, right? And you can, you can disregard that or you can carry it. Okay? And a lot of times we carry it. We carry the things that have been said to us and about us because we don't know who we really are. And if I don't know who I really am and you say something negative to me, particularly in a way that's definitive, I have to, I'm going to war with that one way or the other. I'm going to war with it, to discredit it in my own mind, or I'm going to war with it and agree with it in my own mind. Think about it. Okay, you're either going to agree or you're going to reject it. And when you don't know who you are, you stand a higher percentage chance of agreeing with something that's not true about you. So you have to be able to manage. That's emotional wealth, your ability to manage. Okay. Now, mental health is the term, is the even industry, right? That everybody's talking about their mental health, their mental health, their mental health, their mental health. Why? Because the mental health and the state of the mind has deteriorated within man. Why? I can't talk about that tonight because that'll take me off my subject. But trust me, if you want to know what that is, hit me up. I'll send you something on the birth of mental illness. Okay. God has shown it to me, where it came from, right? How it established itself within the psyche, within the genealogy of man, and how it has proliferated and expounded within all men, just like sin did, right? So much so we know that man wasn't born with sin. He wasn't created with sin. But after a while, God began to see that man was born into sin and shaped into iniquity. Why? Because it kept mushrooming, it kept proliferating to the degree that when man came out of the womb, all there was sin. Thank God for Jesus. Somebody say, thank God for Jesus, because Jesus gave us a way. All right. So that's the mental health and mental wealth. If you were on Apostle D. Jerome Garrett's Mentoring Monday, he began to talk about being sober-minded. And when I heard him say that, I screamed on the inside, right? And the reason I did is because a few days earlier, I was awakened with that word in my heart and in my mouth. Okay, not just sober-minded, but the word soberly. It was in my mouth when I got up out of bed. And so I began to war with that word. I began to chew on it. I began to ruminate that word. Okay. And as I began to do that, I recognized that there were two places in scripture, in the New Testament in particular, where the word soberly was found. Okay. One of those is in Romans 12:3. Okay. Well, Paul is, the one that starts out 12:1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice unto God, to be holy and acceptable, right? And that you renew your mind. Okay. That you renew your mind. And then verse 3 lands here. Paul begins to say, by the grace of God, I urge you, I implore you to not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but to think soberly, okay, according to the degree or the measure of faith that God has given each one of us. So he's saying something here, right? He's urging, pleading with us to not think of ourselves more highly, but to think soberly. So when you think about that word soberly, you think about somebody being drunk and they're out of their minds, right? And the person is sober, well, they have a more stable mind, right? The word literally means there to be in your right mind. So he says, when you're thinking about yourself, don't think more highly. Be in your right mind as you consider who you are, in accordance with the measure of faith that God has given you. So what is he saying here, man? What is he communicating? So this measure of faith Can I say to you that that measure of faith is very particular? Let me say that differently. That measure of faith is closely aligned with and connected to your purpose, the reason why you are here. The measure of faith that God has given us is the faith to do and to be what he sent us here to do and to be. That's what your faith is for. That's the measure that he's given us. And so Paul is saying, think of yourself in terms of why you're here. Let that be your value. Let that be your worth. Let that be your why. Okay? Don't start thinking that you're important because you have this or you have that, or because of your gifts or because of your talent or because of your name. No, 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 no. No, no, no. That's not worth and that's not value. That means nothing. No, where your value is going to be in the what you're carrying. The reason why you are here. That's where your value is. So that's why it's so important to discover why you're here. Okay. So when he started talking about soberly, I screamed on the inside because God had been dealing with me about that already. The other place that it's found is in Titus, right? Titus 2:12, where he's talking about the grace of God, the grace that was given to me to everyone who was among you, not to think it. Well, that's the same one. I'm sorry. Where did it go? There it is. He's talking about the grace. It teaches us to reject ungodliness and worldly immoral devices and to live sensible, upright, and godly lives. Well, that's the Amplified version. Let me read it from the New King James Version. For the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present age. Can I say to you, my God from Zion, that more than anything else, the world needs those who call themselves, who are called by the name of the Lord, needs them to live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present age. Can I say to you that that is the word of the Lord to the body of Christ, to every born again, baptized believer? That is a word to you. Live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present age. In other words, don't live don't live for your own desires. Live to fulfill and complete the work of God on your life, the assignment that's on your life. Live to do what he sent you here to do. Live to wash the dishes. If you've heard me before, you've heard me talk about, and I tell my son or my daughter to wash the dishes, and I come home and they've swept the floor, swept and mopped the floor, they've dusted the furniture, they cleaned out the refrigerator, and they've done so many things, but the dishes are still unwashed. I see all that stuff, and I wanna give you credit. I want to applaud you and celebrate you for doing that, but you didn't do what I asked you to do. If you had just done what I asked you to do and not done any of the other stuff, I would have been as proud of you as I could possibly be, because you did what I asked you to do. But now that you haven't done what I've asked you to do and you've done everything else, you know what that presents itself as? That presents itself as this: away from me. I never knew you. Right? But God, didn't I do this in your name? And didn't I do that in your name? And I healed the sick and I raised the dead and I preached and I prayed and I prophesied and I evangelized and you're like, excuse me? I never knew you. Why? Because you didn't do what I asked you to do. But God, I'm doing all of these things. You told us to do this. Yeah, but I sent you specifically there to do this. And you didn't do that. Oh my God, don't let that be said about you. Do the first thing first. Make sure you get that done. See, sometimes we think the world needs us to do all of these different things. God has a plan. He's always had a plan. You are a part of that plan, right? Your being a part of that plan is you doing what he sent you here to do, being who he sent you here to be. That's your successful collaboration with God in the carrying out of his will in the earth. So I said all that to say that discovering who you are is paramount. It's everything, right? We talked about this before. Matthew 22, 37 through 40, Jesus and the Pharisees. What's the greatest assignment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. How? As yourself. How? As yourself. How? As yourself. And then he says, all of the law and all of the prophets hang on these two commandments. All of the law? Wait, Jesus, all of it? All of the law and all of the prophets. Wait, all of the prophets? All of the prophets hang on these two things. And all at the crux of it all is loving yourself. Well, do you really think you can love yourself if you don't know yourself? Yeah. So it's all riding on you understanding who you are and what it is that you are carrying. Ecclesiastes 3 and 11. We talked about this before. I'm bringing all this home because I'm about to tell you how you can maximize your potential and minimize the fear, the doubt, the confusion, and the uncertainty that's in the earth right now, right? And it's affecting everyone who will allow it to affect them. And the more things happen, the more events that take place, the farther we move in this time period, this dispensation, we will see things that we've never seen before, and they will rock those who can be rocked. They will shake those who can be shaken. They will even topple over those who can be toppled over. I don't want you to be toppled over. I don't want you to be shaken. I want you to stand like a tree planted by the rivers of water, bringing forth fruit in your season. Well, I don't know if it's my season. It's your season. It's the season for the people of God to manifest, to come into their glory, to come into the glory that he prepared for us here on earth. Yes, that glory has everything to do with you maximizing the potential that's on your life. Proverbs talks about it, right? It says, it's to the king's glory to conceal a matter. It's God's glory, God's honor, God's privilege to conceal a matter. But the king's honor, the king's glory, and the king's privilege is to search it out. Well, what are we searching out? The first thing you should be searching out is who you are and what you're carrying. Ecclesiastes 3 and 11 talks about it this way also. He made everything beautiful in its time. Yeah. And he set the world. He set eternity. He set a sense of purpose. Where? Within man, in man's heart, in the heart of man. And it's so interesting how the wise man wrote this scripture, articulated it. He set the world in man's heart so that man wouldn't be able to figure it out, what God's doing, figure out God's plan. It's not for us to figure out God's plan. It's for us to search out and discover what our part of God's plan is and do it and be it. And let God worry about the bigger picture. We just have to worry about the part of it that we're carrying, the part of it that we've been given. Okay? So here it is, because I want to make sure I'm making good use of my time. Here it is, brothers and sisters. If you want to know how to maximize your potential, how to walk in the mental wealth mental and emotional wealth. And let me just say this before I say that. Realizing and walking in your mental wealth has everything to do with your obedience to God. You really can't separate it from your obedience to God. Why? Because of your potential. Your potential to be and do what God has called you to be and do is directly tied to what He called you to be and do. It's no other reason. He didn't give you your gifts and your talents to self-aggrandize. He didn't give them to you so you could make yourself big, so you could make yourself great. He gave them to you so you could fulfill the purpose of God on your life. And if you became great in the midst of that, you became great because He made you great, not because you made yourself great. See, too many people have that twisted. That's why the world is full of idols and idolatry. That's also why the world is coming under the judgment of God, because of the idolatry. Okay? No, let's be sober. Let's think soberly. Let's think in accordance to the measure of faith that God has given us. Let's see ourselves through that lens, because that's the lens that matters the most. All right. All right, so here we go. If you want to be able to walk in and realize, let me move this out of the way because I want to see y'all comments. All right. I see you. I see you. If you want to be able to walk in and live in your mental wealth, mental and emotional wealth that God created for you to walk and live in, you are going to have to come into alignment with your original design. There is an original design for every human being, just like there is a design that caused this phone to come into existence. Just like there is a design for this vitamin pill bottle. There's a design for everything. So why would you think that there's no design for man? Okay? There's a design for every part of your life. There's an intelligent design for your being here on earth. And the scriptures, I gave you those scriptures to leading up to this so that you could understand that God has hidden it inside of us, and He fully expects us to search it out and find it, discover it, and then become it and be it and do it. That's what He expects from us. Right? So you're going to have to come into alignment with your original design, the very reason why God sent you here. And how is it that you made me, God? What is it about me? What's strategic about me? What is it that's we use this special? Okay, what's special about me? What's unique about me? I don't have no unique gifts and talents. You know, if you've been saying that about yourself, stop saying that, because you're lying to yourself on yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Say you don't know. Okay? If you don't know, say you don't know. But don't say I don't have, because that becomes an affront to a creative God. Everything He does is creative, right? Everything. So if you are made in His image and after His likeness, then certainly you are creative as well. And so there is a design that's on your life. How do you discover that design? Let me see. Do I have time to give this testimony? I'm going to give you this testimony, right? And your testimony is not going to be my testimony. I'm sharing this with you to show you that I'm not just blowing smoke. My life has been this. Okay. So from the time that I was a little person, right? I had a gift that was on my life that I didn't understand. Okay. I didn't even recognize that it was a gift. You know, I just living my life and being me and thought people were just being people. But people always put me in a place of counsel. Okay. They always sought after me and the wisdom or the words that I was carrying. And most times I didn't know where these words were coming from. I knew they were coming from some place, right, that was outside of or beyond me, but I didn't have enough understanding or enough awareness to even attribute that to God, right? I had no awareness. I had no words for what was going on. I just participated in it because it was something that happened in me and it was something that would happen through me. So that happened all my life, right? I remember my friends and I in college, this one friend of mine in particular, we would get high, okay? And when we got high together, we'd start talking and talking about things. And then it seemed like the conversation would go beyond us. And we'd enter into a realm where we were talking about things that we knew we had no personal experience with, but yet we knew we were operating in a realm of truth and revelation. Now, we wouldn't have described it as such at that time because it was just blowing us away. We just thought it was all the weed, right? But it wasn't the weed. But every time we do that, right? And the conversation would go to such a place, and it's like we'd look at each other and recognize it. Wow, how did we get here? And then like, all of a sudden it would stop, and then it would be like coming down off of a high. That's the only way I could ever explain it, because that's how it felt, like coming down off of a high. We'd have these kind of conversations 2 or 3 times a week, right? And we had a third roommate. Anytime he came in and tried to participate, it just messed it up. I don't know what. He was a smart guy. It's our friend, but for some reason, it was something that my other roommate and I had, that when we began to talk, I think it was a similar gifting that I have that he has as well. And so I didn't know what that was about, right? That was before salvation. And then after I got saved and I was really on, they say on fire for God. Of course, I was on fire, right? But I was on a mission. I was after something because the Lord told me that there was more than what I had seen and experienced. So I was on a mission for that more. I was looking for the more, man. I wasn't looking for religion. I had seen that and didn't want no part of it, right? But God said there was more, so I was looking and searching for more. I was searching. It was God's glory to conceal who I was, but it was my glory to search out who I was. And God put me on a journey that to this very day, okay, is still feeding me and still giving me revelation about who he called me to be into the earth. And so years passed by. This is the part of it I want to get to. I got 6 minutes to get to it because I need you to understand this, right? So there was my life. Okay. I started writing. Well, I've been writing all my life, but I started writing poetry uh, somewhere in my early 20s. Okay, seriously writing poetry. And every time I would write something, I would pass it by a friend of mine. I just wanted him to hear it. He said, "Man, this is awesome, man. You should write a book." Right? Bro, I'm not trying to write a book, man. I'm just sharing this with you because you're my boy, right? And every time I would share it with him, that's what he'd say. So after the 100th time of that, I was like, well, okay, I'll create some kind of little format chapbook or something, and I'll put these little poems in a chapbook. I didn't even think much of it, right? My goodness. I didn't even realize that God had given me something that would be the fundamental foundational basis of everything that I do today. I didn't realize it at the time, right? So I went on, right? And I met this man named Miles Monroe. And remember I said earlier that I was looking for someone and I didn't know who I was looking for. I was looking for Miles Monroe and the message that he was carrying. I didn't know it, but when I met him, I said, "My God, this man is speaking my language," right? He was speaking the language that I didn't know yet. It was a language that was going on inside of me, but I didn't have words for it. He gave words to it. And I said, "My goodness." That same week I met him, I changed my major. I had been thinking about it and contemplating it all along. And when I met him, I was like, that's it. I know what I'm supposed to do now. Right. So there was purpose became my thing. Right. That day I considered that my life had purpose beyond just the word, but that I was actually here for a very specific reason. Okay. And there I was on that journey. So years, I became what I call the poster child for purpose and destiny because I was seeking and searching and God was feeding me and showing me things. Right. And then we came to a point in time before 2020, this is probably 27, well, 2016, somewhere, 2015. The Lord began to speak to me again about some things that He had said to me before the 21st century about His economy, and he gave me something called God's economy for the 21st century. And that was in the 20th century. But he reminded me of it and had me to pull it out again and began to cause me to see how what I was doing at that moment, I needed to make sure that it was what I wanted to fill my future with. Okay. And so he began dealing with me even more about purpose. And then he started dealing with me about original design. And I began to discover that there's a design on my life. He caused me to look back at my life and see certain things and connect the dots. He had me one day to go back through my high school yearbook, right? I was looking for something in my closet, found the high school yearbook, and I need to stay on course, but I ended up opening it up anyway. And the first page I opened it up to, it fell on a word that was given to me by my speech and drama teacher. His name was Mr. Beecham. And something Mr. Beecham said to me that had been 20 something years before spoke to me in the moment that I was in. He called me something that I had been struggling with myself to be. He called me a writer. And I had written 2 books, but I still didn't see myself as a writer because I didn't know who I was. So I was struggling with it. And I look back in that book, and that man called me a writer when I was a teenager. Okay. That right there, I want somebody to put this in the chat. That right there was a dominion. No, that was a code incident. CODE dash incident. That was one of many. I'm gonna come back another time and we're gonna talk about code incidents. You have them in your life. I want to help you to identify them because they're important, right? But that was a code incident for me. It spoke to me about my destiny. It spoke to me about my purpose. It helped me to understand that I was on the right track. Okay, fast forward, right? Because I had to keep this moving. So there was the purpose, there was the original design, right? And he kind of married those 2 things together by helping me to understand my ability to write, because the stuff that I had written had everything to do with purpose and original design. The poems that I was writing had everything to do with purpose and original design. Crazy, right? So we kept going. As we moved through this time in this season, 2020 and pandemic and all that, the Lord began to speak to me about emerging leaders. Okay. He spoke to me about emerging leaders because he showed me all of the vacancies that were happening. And a lot of people were dying, right? So people just leaving the earth. And the Lord began to show me these are vacancies that are being left. And someone has to fill those vacancies. And some of those vacancies were huge pillars. Okay. People who were pillars. And he says those are to be replaced with the emerging leaders. I'm calling some who are going to take those places, who are going to occupy those places and those spaces as pillars in the earth. So he started dealing with me about emerging leaders. Some of you know I did some seminars around emerging leaders, right? And then after the pandemic, okay, 2022-ish, he began to really deal with me about mental wealth, because I saw the deteriorating state of the mind of men after the pandemic. And he helped me to identify something in the earth that I called pandemic fever. It was simply the increase of fear, doubt, confusion, and uncertainty. It was evident. Okay. And so he began to speak to me about the mental wealth and what mental wealth is and how, okay, in this season, in this hour, if you do not have the ability to walk in, okay, produce your own mental wealth, your state of being, you become low-hanging fruit for the enemy. In other words, it's easy for the enemy to take you out. Okay, so we've got these things: the purpose, the original design, the emerging leaders, and the mental wealth. Okay, somebody do this for me. Just do this for me, right? Just write this in the chat, right? Just write the first letter of each of those things. Purpose, you're going to write a P. Put that in the chat for me. Okay. Original design, you're going to write an O. Okay. Emerging leaders, you're going to write E. All right. Mental wealth, you're going to write M. Now tell me what that spells. Tell me what that spells, man. Right? God caused it all to come full circle. And he helped me to see how this was all a part of my, watch this word, dominion code. This was all a part of the code of how I made up, of what I was designed and created to do and to be in the earth. And I thought, my God, because throughout my life, right, I've had my hands in so many things, done so many things, and had so many jobs, I forgot most of them, right? Now, God uses everything. I've been saying this lately. It's all relevant and it's all connected. It's all relevant and it's all connected. You just have to begin to search. If you get on the search with God, he'll cause you to run dead smack into who you are and the design that's on your life. That's all the time I've got. I would love to spend some more time with you around this subject, and we will talk about it again. What I want you to get out of this is that there's a design on your life, and God expects you to search it out, discover it, and become it. The world needs you to be who God called you to be. The world is counting on you to do what God called you into the earth to do. Your everything about you and everything about your life has led to this very moment that we're in right now. And I want to help someone to understand that now is your time. This is your moment. I thought about the Keymaker. Y'all know my favorite, one of my favorite movies. Well, got to be probably my favorite movie series of all time is The Matrix, right? And the second one, um, the second one is the one that was my favorite of all of them, right? But there was this one character, the Keymaker. The Keymaker had one job, and he spent his whole life honing his skills and developing them, practicing and making keys, because there was one key that mattered the most, right? He got locked up, okay, put away. And even in his being confined, he was still honing his craft. He was still in there making keys. All you saw in the room was keys. And when Neo opens the door, he blows the key off and says, I've been waiting for you. Somebody's been waiting for you. And you're waiting for someone. That's how significant you are. That's how important you are to this time that we're in. So I've used more of my time than I wanted to use tonight. Thank you again for joining me. I hope you all got something out of that. This is my moment. Yes, indeed, Deidre Perry. That's what I want you to get. This is my moment to shine, to be the light. And the reason why you be the light is so that you can do the work. Because you can't be the light, or rather, you can't do the work until you become the light. Jesus said it. No one works at night. You have to work while it is day. Why? Because that's where the light is. So, Lord, I thank you and I bless you for this time. Thank you for those who joined. I hope, Lord, and I pray that you cause them to receive revelation that will not just enter into their hearts and minds, but revelation that they will begin to ruminate on and chew on, like you did me with that word soberly, Lord, that they would chew on something from tonight and that it would become life in them and life to them and life through them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.